The basics of teaching reading and writing, fostering a culture of reading and writing. To strengthen your skills in teaching reading and writing, you may want to try our online course, Reading 101, a guide to teaching reading and writing. Reading intervention specialist working one-on-one with an elementary student. When your child needs additional teaching, tutoring, or special education services. Print awareness is understanding that print carries meaning, that books contain letters and words, and how a book works, such as identifying the front and back covers and that pages are turned. Phonological awareness is the ability to recognize and manipulate the spoken parts of words, including rhymes, syllables, and phonemes. Children's reading development is dependent on their understanding of the alphabetic principle, the idea that letters and letter patterns represent the sounds of spoken language. Fluency is the ability to read a text accurately, quickly, and with expression. Fluency is important because it provides a bridge between word recognition and comprehension. Vocabulary plays an important part in learning to read. Beginning readers must use the words they hear orally to make sense of the words they see in print. Learning to spell is built on a child's understanding that words are made up of separate speech sounds, phonemes, and that letters represent those sounds. Comprehension is the reason for reading. Good readers think actively as they read. They use their experiences and knowledge of the world, vocabulary, language structure, and reading strategies to make sense of the text. A child's writing development parallels their development as a reader. Writing is a complex task that balances purpose, audience, ideas, and organization with the mechanics of writing, sentence structure, word choice, spelling. Regular informal assessments throughout the school year provides useful information that can help teachers to identify the individual strengths and weaknesses of each student. Some kids have a disability that makes reading difficult to learn. Others come to school without the literacy experiences they need to become readers. Some children struggle because they've received poor or inadequate reading instruction. The more risk factors a child has, the more likely it is that he or she will encounter reading problems. In addition to an excellent reading curriculum, these factors play a critical role in helping students become strong readers. A teacher's skill with classroom management, differentiated instruction, working with the students' parents, and other interventions to help struggling readers. It feels like you were just buying your child's first picture books, and already, it's time for her to start first grade. Need a tissue? It's okay, we've been there. But let's be honest, kids aren't the only ones who get nervous about a new school year. That's why we've created this first grade guide to make the leap easier than ever. Here, you'll find all of the resources you need for a successful school year, so you can spend less time researching and more time learning with your little one, and, naturally, planning that cute first day of school snapshot. First grade is packed with important and exciting transitions as children leave behind much of the play of preschool and kindergarten, and begin to develop more academic skills. The first grade classroom is usually organized more like a traditional elementary school classroom, with tables and desks for students to spend most of their time at. Your child will also go through a significant transition to more extensive learning. As your child adjusts, she may get tired at the end of the day or have trouble focusing as the day progresses. That's normal. Just check with your child's teacher on her progress, and work together to develop strategies if she is having trouble adjusting, especially at the beginning of the year. Most importantly, prime your child for success by continuing the learning process at home with enriching books and activities that support what she's learning in school. When your first grader spends time learning new skills with you, it not only makes that time more valuable to her, but also helps her reach the milestones expected of her at this age. Here is everything you need to know about the exciting year of first grade, and the materials that will help your child shine as star student. Reading, first grade. Building reading skills is an essential part of a first grader's learning process and academic success down the road. Even when students are not specifically learning reading, they are constantly using this skill to learn other subjects, which is why it's crucial for your child's success in all subjects. As first graders develop their reading comprehension, they will talk more about certain topics and gain a deeper understanding of what they read. To build his reading skills, your first grader. Recognizes the features of a sentence, for example, first words, capitalization, and ending punctuation. Recognizes the spelling and sound of two letters that represent one sound, such as th, ch, wh. These are also known as digraphs. Learns to read regularly spelled one-syllable words. Understands how an e at the end of a word changes a vowel within the word. Breaks up longer words into syllables in order to read them. Reads grade-level words that have irregular spellings. Knows the difference between and reads fiction texts such as Mouse and Lion, and non-fiction texts like Leo, the Snow Leopard, with purpose and an understanding of the plot and important ideas and characters. Talks about and answers questions about the text he reads. Reads texts aloud at an appropriate speed and with expression. Compares different characters, events, or texts. Understands the purpose of and uses common features in a book, such as headings, tables of contents, and glossaries. Begins to read grade-appropriate poetry, such as No Fair, No Fair, and other jolly poems of childhood, and identifies words and phrases that relate to emotions and the senses. For more book and reading ideas, sign up for our Scholastic Parents newsletter. Your first grade book checklist for reading. 1. Owl Diaries box set, perfect for your newly independent reader. This Owl-dorable series is part of Scholastic's Branches line of early chapter books, designed specifically to help your child move from picture books to chapter books. With stunning illustrations throughout, these titles will take your first grader on new adventures through the perspective of an owl named Eva. 2. Branches Dragon Masters Pack Books 1 to 6, another great pick in the Branches line. The Dragon Master series follows the fiery story of Drake, who never thought dragons were real until he was chosen to train his very own. Like other Branches books, these titles feature easy-to-read text, simple plotlines, and purposeful illustrations that are perfect for first-grade readers. 3. Paw Patrol Phonics box set, step into reading with your first grader's favorite four-legged buds. We love this set because each book features a specific phonics element that will help your child review material from kindergarten, all while learning plenty of new material for success in first and second grade. 4. Scholastic Success with Sight Words. If your child can recognize high-frequency words quickly, reading success will come easily. The best way to practice sight words, those that make up the vast majority of text students encounter in the early elementary school years, is through practice and repetition. This activity book helps kids get familiar with the top 100 sight words through exciting games and activities. 5. Nate the Great. This timeless classic keeps young readers on the edge of their seats, and is a great way to introduce your first grader to mystery reads. Nate is the boy detective who loves to chase down facts, track down culprits, and solve tough-to-crack cases. Bonus reading activities. Put on a show, read a favorite story or poem out loud as though it's a play, using different voices for the character and the narrator to help your child practice his pacing and expression. Your child can also read a dramatic book, like Missy's Super Duper Royal Deluxe No. 3, School Play, to you. Read and draw. Ask your child to draw a picture of his favorite scene, character, or page from a book. He can then write a description of what he drew and why he chose to draw it. Become poets. Read small and simple poems together and talk about the feelings they convey. Next, try writing your own poems together about objects, people you know, or anything else you like. Word games. Use magnetic letters, letter tiles, like Cube Kid alphabet blocks, or cards from games to create both real and silly words. Practice building longer words by combining shorter words and sounds. Create your own dictionary. As your child learns to read new words and understand the meaning of those words, keep track of them in your own personal dictionary. Your child can write them down, draw a picture to illustrate the word or its definition, or write a sentence using the word. Writing, first grade. Once your child has mastered writing letters and begins to improve her spelling skills, she can begin to write longer pieces in a variety of genres. First grade is that magical time in which your child progresses from simply writing words to becoming a writer, and her spelling skills will improve in the meantime. Students also begin to use technology in first grade, specifically for writing and research. You can help by using the internet and other technology at home with your child in an appropriate and supervised manner. As with reading, your child will use writing throughout the day in a variety of subjects. For example, students may write about a math problem, explaining how they solved it, or write about a topic they learned in science or social studies. All of this work makes her a better writer and learner overall. To build her writing skills, your first grader writes a variety of texts including opinion pieces, narratives, and explanatory, informational pieces. Writes with structure, including an introductory sentence, supporting or accurate details, and some sense of closure. Begins to use digital tools, including computers, to practice and publish writing. Gathers information as a class, with the aid of a teacher, to answer a question or create a shared research or writing project. Your first grade book checklist for writing. 1. Scholastic Success with Writing, Grade 1. The fun activities in this workbook are designed based on state standards for first grade readers, providing your child with the targeted, skill-building practice they need to excel in writing descriptive, clear sentences and identifying story parts. 2. Scholastic Learning Express Level 1, Grammar and Writing. This collection of teacher-approved activities focuses on identifying different types of sentences, punctuating sentences, and writing and building stories, and comes with additional online resources and reward stickers. 3. Scholastic Study Smart Writing Skills Builder Level 1. Mini projects in this book consolidate your first grader's learning as she learns to identify sentence structures and add information to sentences, making it a great option to pair with the other workbooks in this list. 4. Scholastic Learning Express, Alphabet and Handwriting, Grades K2. Give your child the essential skills required to be a good writer with this practice in handwriting and sequencing letters. Filled with teacher-approved activities and reward stickers, this workbook will make your little one look forward to writing. 5. Scholastic Success with Grammar. To be skilled at writing, your first grader must be skilled at grammar. This fun activity book provides practice in sentence types, parts of speech, contractions, verb tenses, punctuation, and much more to lead your child to writing success. Bonus writing activities. Write your own stories. After your child experiences an important moment or event, ask her to write about it and illustrate it as though it is a story, and if she'd like, she can then share it with your family and friends. Answer a question. When your child asks a question, research the answer together using books like the Scholastic Children's Dictionary or computers under your supervision. Then, work together to craft an informative poster or collage with the question and the answer, using both text and pictures to show what you learned. Make a family magazine or book. Task your first grader with illustrating a book using drawings and text to describe different family members or friends. Each person can have their very own page. Write cards and letters for special events. On birthdays and holidays, help your child send letters or cards that she writes for family and friends. Math, first grade. Students continue to develop their addition and subtraction skills in first grade, and in many classes, math tools and manipulatives such as blocks, tiles, and different shapes are used to help students practice using concrete, visible objects. This helps students truly understand the concepts underlying the math they learn. What's more, students in first grade may begin to write about the math they do, answering questions about how they solve problems and understand certain processes. To build his math skills, your first grader adds and subtracts numbers 1 to 20, solves word problems by using objects, drawings, and traditional equations with the plus and minus signs. Adds 3 numbers that add to a number up to 20. Solves addition and subtraction problems by adding up or subtracting smaller numbers, for example, 10 plus 4 equals 10 plus 2 plus 2 and 15 to 6 equals 1 5 2 2 2. Learns the relationship between addition and subtraction, for example, 2 plus 3 equals 5 and 5 minus 3 equals 2. Counts out and groups objects in order to solve single-digit addition and subtraction problems. Counts and writes the numbers 1 to 120, starting from any number less than 120. Understands and creates numbers using 10 as a base, for example, 12 equals 1 10 and 2 ones. Compares two two-digit numbers using the less than, greater than, and equals signs. Adds up to 100 using objects and the concept of tens. Subtracts or adds 10 to a 2-digit number in his mind, without counting, and subtracts by 10 from numbers 1 to 90, using concrete objects or tools. Orders 3 objects by length. Begins to tell and write time using both digital and analog clocks. Learn to tell time. Owly clock is a good tool for practicing. Understands data, specifically, the total number of data points, how many are in each category, and how many more or less there are in a category. Understands the definition of and difference between shapes and creates shapes using this knowledge. Learning maths, patterns will help with this. Creates 2- and 3-dimensional shapes. Breaks up circles and rectangles into 2 and 4 equal parts, and understands that the parts are halves, fourths, and quarters, and that smaller parts make up larger ones. Your first grade book checklist for Math 1. Scholastic success with Math, Grade 1. Numbers become all the more fun with math activities set to the scene of alligator teeth or flower pots. Each practice page reinforces a set of first-grade skills outlined in standardized tests, and is invaluable practice for math skills such as reasoning and logic, time and money, story problems and equations, and much more. 2. Reading and Math Jumbo Workbook. In this book, more than 300 pages of skill-building exercises will help your first grader meet academic excellence, all with fun stickers, a certificate of achievement, and instant assessment tests to check progress. It covers not only math topics like numbers and shapes, but also language-related skills like handwriting and spelling. Bonus math activities. Add it up and shop. When you are in the store together, ask your child to add together different items. For instance, how many fruits did you buy? How many boxes of bananas are there? How many different types of soups are there? Greater or less than? Make 3 cards, one with the less than sign, one with the greater than sign, and one with the equals sign. Play a game by placing pieces of paper with specific numbers on a table. Ask your child to put the correct sign between the numbers as quickly as possible, seeing how many rounds he can get correct in a certain amount of time. Track how many your child got right, and encourage him to try to beat his record the next time you play. Build things. Use blocks or other building toys to construct houses, towers, vehicles, etc. As you build, count pieces by tens, add and subtract pieces, and pay attention to the different shapes you use. Take a poll, ask family members a question and create a graph of the answers using numbers and pictures, then ask your child questions about the different data you collected. Order up, compare the sizes of different objects. Ask your child which object is larger, smaller, and smallest, or ask him to put some of his toys in order by size. Time him to see how fast he can do this. Set the table. Setting the table for meal offers plenty of opportunities to practice math. Ask your child to add up the total numbers of utensils, plates, chairs, etc., as she helps to set the table. Science, first grade. Your child spends her time exploring and experimenting in first grade. Students are taught to observe, ask questions, and record their observations and answers. Science lessons often overlap with math and literacy as teachers use books, graphs, and measurement to help students learn. Since specific science topics taught in a first grade class vary across schools, find out which specific science topics your child will be learning about and find ways to explore these topics at home. To build her science skills, your first grader explores and experiments with the world around her and with objects provided by the teacher. Learns new facts about a variety of topics including the human body, ocean and sea life, animals, measurement, electricity and magnetism, sound, and matter, the difference between solids, gases and liquids. Makes observations and records what she sees and learns using graphs, pictures, and words. Your first grade book checklist for science. 1. Lego Nonfiction, Big Book of Animals. Science gets extra cuddly in this book filled with fun facts about the world's fascinating creatures. Lego mini figures and their trademark antics and humor, plus vignettes, mini comic strips, and infographics, will spark your child's interest in science. 2. Awesome Facts Pack 3 books. Get your first grader excited about fun facts and science with this brain-tickling book filled with awe-inspiring information. Your child will be amazed about all there is to be learned about living things, technology, and world records, including buzzworthy stats about music and animals, in this bundle. 3. What if you had T-Rex teeth? Show your little learner the wonders of dinosaurs with this parent favorite that brilliantly blends humor with facts. Kids will learn what life would be like with the long neck of a brachiosaur or the giant curved teeth of a T-Rex, all while getting to know the history of dinosaurs. Bonus science activities. Experiment with water, put different objects in water and see what floats and sinks, heat water up and show your child what happens when it boils, and put cups of water in the freezer and refrigerator and compare what happens. Make ice cubes out of water and then watch them melt, focusing on how different matter can change from one phase to another. Ask your child what she thinks will occur before you do each of these things, and talk about what she learns. Observe your world, observe things around you, your pet, a rainstorm, a bug outside, or anything else in nature. Together, write down and draw pictures of what you notice. Use this to further your child's fascination with science. Ask her what else she wants to learn about a topic, then read books or look up facts online about that topic. Try to find answers to your child's questions. Use your senses, help your child use her senses. Have her put on a blindfold and taste, touch, and smell different objects, asking her to guess what the object is or talk about how it tastes, feels, and smells. Social studies, first grade. The specific social studies topics studied in first grade classrooms typically vary according to state standards. Different states may focus on their own history, geography, and communities, as well as slightly vary the focus of their learning. However, in most first-grade classrooms, students begin to explore their communities and the world around them more deeply, enhancing their research skills, general knowledge of the world around them, and ability to compare and contrast different groups. This is done in a variety of ways through group projects, group research, read alouds, class trips, and exploratory activities. In addition, first graders continue to have class meetings where they learn about the calendar and discuss class events. In the United States, American holidays are also studied. To build his social studies skills, your first grader learns and talks about his own family, different types of families in the present and in history, and his community. Uses and studies maps to locate his own community as well as others. Develops communication and conversation skills. Creates both group and individual work to represent what he has learned, using writing, illustrations, and graphic organizers such as Venn diagrams and T-charts. Begins to explore the role of technology and media. Gains an understanding of the importance of rules, democracy, and citizenship. These good citizen flashcards are a great tool for this, in the classroom and in his community. Learns about American holidays and important events and days. Your first grade book checklist for social studies. 1. Fly Guy presents The White House. Take a field trip to the nation's capital with Fly Guy and Buzz. Your child will learn about how the White House operates in this humorous, engaging book that brings non-fiction to life. 2. Lon Popo, a Red Riding Hood story from China. Your first grader will be captivated by this variation of Red Riding Hood, filled with mystery, suspense, and vibrant illustrations. It's a valuable opportunity for young students to learn how to compare different variations of the same story, and to gain insight into a culture that might be different from their own. Bonus social studies activities. Make the rules together, talk about the rules in your house and write them down together. Talk about why you have the rules and ask your child if he would like to change, add, or make new rules. Make a community collage, ask relatives or friends who live in different places to send you newspapers, magazines, or pictures of their communities. Talk with your child about the similarities and differences between other communities and your own. You can even make a poster that compares the two, showing what's different and what's the same. Find a pen pal. If you know of another child who lives somewhere else, coordinate with a parent to set your children up as pen pals, using technology when possible. Your child can use email, letters, pictures, and video calling to communicate, all under your supervision. Have the children send pictures of their communities to each other. Make a map of people you know, take either an international or national map, or use a book like the National Geographic Kids World Atlas and mark the places where other family members or friends live. Talk about the place each person lives and the distance between their town and yours. General strategies. View the improvement of students' writing as your responsibility. Teaching writing is not only the job of the English department alone. Writing is an essential tool for learning a discipline, and helping students improve their writing skills is a responsibility for all faculty. Let students know that you value good writing. Stress the importance of clear, thoughtful writing. Faculty who tell students that good writing will be rewarded and poor writing will be penalized receive better essays than instructors who don't make such demands. In the syllabus, on the first day, and throughout the term, remind students that they must make their best effort in expressing themselves on paper. Back up your statements with comments on early assignments that show you really mean it, and your students will respond. Regularly assign brief writing exercises in your classes. To vary the pace of a lecture course, ask students to write a few minutes during class. Some mixture of in-class writing, outside writing assignments, and exams with open-ended questions will give students the practice they need to improve their skills. Provide guidance throughout the writing process. After you have made the assignment, discuss the value of outlines and notes, explain how to select and narrow a topic, and critique the first draft. Define plagiarism as well. Don't feel as though you have to read and grade every piece of your students' writing. Ask students to analyze each other's work during class, or ask them to critique their work in small groups. Students will learn that they are writing in order to think more clearly, not obtain a grade. Keep in mind, you can collect students' papers and skim their work. Find other faculty members who are trying to use writing more effectively in their courses. Pool ideas about ways in which writing can help students learn more about the subject matter. See if there is sufficient interest in your discipline to warrant drawing up guidelines. Students welcome handouts that give them specific instructions on how to write papers for a particular course or in a particular subject area. Teaching writing when you are not an English teacher. Remind students that writing is a process that helps us clarify ideas. Tell students that writing is a way of learning, not an end in itself. Also let them know that writing is a complicated, messy, non-linear process filled with false starts. Help them to identify the writer's key activities, developing ideas, finding a focus and a thesis, composing a draft, getting feedback and comments from others, revising the draft by expanding ideas, clarifying meaning, reorganizing, editing, presenting the finished work to readers. Explain that writing is hard work. Share with your class your own struggles in grappling with difficult topics. If they know that writing takes effort, they won't be discouraged by their own pace or progress. One faculty member shared with students their notebook that contained the chronology of one of his published articles, first ideas, successive drafts, submitted manuscript, reviewers' suggested changes, revised version, galley proofs, and published article. Give students opportunities to talk about their writing. Students need to talk about papers in progress so that they can formulate their thoughts, generate ideas, and focus their topics. Take 5 or 10 minutes of class time for students to read their writing to each other in small groups or pairs. It's important for students to hear what their peers have written. Encourage students to revise their work. Provide formal steps for revision by asking students to submit first drafts of papers for your review or for peer critique. You can also give your students the option of revising and rewriting one assignment during the semester for a higher grade. Faculty report that 10 to 40% of the students take advantage of this option. Explain thesis statements. A thesis statement makes an assertion about some issue. A common student problem is to write papers that present overviews of facts with no thesis statement or that have a diffuse thesis statement. Stress clarity and specificity. The more the abstract and difficult the topic, the more concrete the student's language should be. Inflated language and academic jargon camouflage rather than clarify their point. Explain the importance of grammar and sentence structure, as well as content. Students shouldn't think that English teachers are the only judges of grammar and style. Tell your students that you will be looking at both quality of their writing and the content. Distribute bibliographies and tip sheets on good writing practices. Check with your English department or writing center to identify materials that can be easily distributed to students. Consider giving your students a bibliography of writing guides, for example, Cruz, FC Random House Handbook. 6th ed. New York, McGraw-Hill, 1992. A classic comprehensive textbook for college students. Well written and well worth reading. Lanham, R.A. Revising Prose. 3rd ed. New York, Scribner's, 1991. Techniques for Eliminating Bureaucraties and Restoring Energy to Tired Prose. Tollefson, S.K. Grammargrams and Grammargrams 2. New York, HarperCollins, 1989. 1992. 2 short, witty guides that answer common questions about grammar, style, and usage. Both are fun to read. Science and Engineering Barris, Our Scientists Must Write. New York, Chapman and Hall, 1978. Biddle, A.W., and Bean, D.J. Writer's Guide, Life Sciences. Lexington, Mass., Heath, 1987. Arts and Humanities Barnett, Essay Short Guide to Writing About Art. Boston, Little, Brown, 1989. Goldman, B. Reading and Writing in the Arts. Detroit, Wayne State University Press, 1978. Social Sciences Biddle, A.W., Fulwiller, T., and Holland, K.M. Writer's Guide, Psychology. Lexington, Mass., Heath, 1987. McCloskey, D.N. The Writing of Economics. New York, Macmillan, 1987. Ask a composition instructor to give a presentation to your students. Invite a guest speaker from the composition department or student learning center to talk to your students about effective writing and common writing problems. Faculty who have invited these experts report that such presentations reinforce the values of the importance of writing. Let students know about available tutoring services. Individual or group tutoring in writing is available on most campuses. Ask someone from the tutoring center to give a demonstration in your class. Use computers to help students write better. Locally developed and commercially available software are now being used by faculty to help students plan, write, and revise their written work. Some software available allows instructors to monitor students' work in progress and lets students collaborate with their classmates. Assigning in-class writing activities. Ask students to write what they know about a topic before you discuss it. Ask your students to write a brief summary of what they already know or what opinions they hold regarding the subject you are about to discuss. The purpose of this is to focus the students' attention. There is no need to collect the summaries. Ask students to respond in writing to questions you pose during class. Prior to class starting, list 2 or 3 short answer questions on the board and ask your students to write down their responses. Your questions might call for a review of material you have already discussed or recalling information from assigned readings. Ask students to write from a pro or con position. When presenting an argument, stop and ask your students to write down all the reasons and evidence they can think of that supports one side or the other. These statements can be used as the basis for discussion. During class, pause for a 3-minute write. Periodically ask students to write freely for 3 minutes on a specific question or topic. They should write whatever pops into their mind without worrying about grammar, spelling, phrasing, or organization. This kind of free writing, according to writing experts, helps students synthesize diverse ideas and identify points they may not understand. There is no need to collect these exercises. Have students write a brief summary at the end of class. At the end of the class period, give your students index cards to jot down the key themes, major points, or general principles of the day's discussion. You can easily collect the index cards and review them to see whether the class understood the discussion. Have one student keep minutes to be read at the next class meeting. By taking minutes, students get a chance to develop their listening, synthesizing, and writing skills. Boris, 1983, suggests the following: prepare your students by having everyone take careful notes for the class period, go home and rework them into minutes, and hand them in for comments. It can be the student's discretion whether the minutes are in outline or narrative form. Decide on 1 to 2 good models to read or distribute to the class. At the beginning of each of the following classes, assign one student to take minutes for the period. Give a piece of carbon paper to the student who is taking minutes so that you can have a rough copy. The student then takes the original home and revises it in time to read it aloud at the next class meeting. After the student has read their minutes, ask other students to comment on their accuracy and quality. If necessary, the student will revise the minutes and turn in 2 copies, one for grading and one for your files. Structure small group discussion around a writing task. For example, have your students pick 3 words that are of major importance to the day's session. Ask your class to write freely for 2 to 3 minutes on just one of the words. Next, give the students 5 to 10 minutes to meet in groups to share what they have written and generate questions to ask in class. Use peer response groups. Divide your class into groups of 3 or 4, no larger. Ask your students to bring to class enough copies of a rough draft of a paper for each person in their group. Give your students guidelines for critiquing the drafts. In any response task, the most important step is for the reader to note the part of the paper that is the strongest and describe to the writer why it worked so well. The following instructions can also be given to the reader: state the main point of the paper in a single sentence, list the major subtopics, identify confusing sections of the paper, decide whether each section of the paper has enough detail, evidence, and information, indicate whether the paper's points follow one another in sequence, judge the appropriateness of the opening and concluding paragraphs, identify the strengths of the paper. Written critiques done as homework are likely to be more thoughtful, but critiques may also be done during the class period. Use read-around groups. Read-around groups are a technique used with short assignments, 2 to 4 pages, which allows everyone to read everyone else's paper. Divide the class into groups no larger than 4 students and divide the papers, coded for anonymity, into as many sets as there are groups. Give each group a set and ask the students to read each paper silently and decide on the best paper in the set. Each group should discuss their choices and come to a consensus on the best paper. The paper's code number is recorded by the group, and the same process is repeated with a new set of papers. After all the groups have read all the sets of papers, someone from each group writes on the board the code number from the best paper in each set. The recurring numbers are circled. Generally, 1 to 3 papers stand out. Ask students to identify the characteristics of effective writing. After completing the read-around activity, ask your students to reconsider those papers which were voted as excellent by the entire class and to write down features that made each paper outstanding. Write their comments on the board, asking for elaboration and probing vague generalities. In pairs, the students discuss the comments on the board and try to put them into categories such as organization, awareness of audience, thoroughness of detail, etc. You might need to help your students arrange the characteristics into meaningful categories. Bye bye, goodbye bye.